right, welcome. We're going to be moving on to Kingside Fianchettos against our Colle system and what approach we're going to take. And I'm going to also put a link later in the show. I'll put a link to another video that I previously made on a different setup that you could use if you're not fond of the one I present in this repertoire. There's an alternative video that I made for another setup that you can use. The beautiful thing about these Kingside Fianchettos, there's so many good ways to play against them. So, but let's just kind of start looking at it here. So normally, if you're playing against a King's Indian or a Grunfeld player, they're going to do an early Kingside Fianchetto, and they're going to open up with knight to f6, and whether they know it or not, what that move does is it stops us from playing e4. So what we're going to do is we're just going to continue along normal for now, because they might just play d5 here, they might play e6 here, and we could end up in our regular Colle setup, right? So, but if they are a King's Indian player or a Grunfeld player, they're probably going to play g6. And so now we know they're aiming for a Kingside Fianchetto. And how I propose playing against it for us in our repertoire is we are actually going to play knight b to d2 here. And what we want to do is we want to trick them into us playing e4, and then they are not in their kind of normal opening anymore. More commonly, they're used to somebody playing c4. They'll go like this, castle, and try to play e5 if they're a King's Indian player. If they're a Grunfeld player, they'll do this, and then eventually they'll go for d5, okay, and then c5. So what we want to do is take them out of their comfort zone, and so we play knight b to d2, and if they're asleep at the wheel, which more often than not they will be to some extent, they may know what we're doing and they're okay with it, but a lot of times they're just going to be on autopilot, fianchetto this bishop, and then we play e4. And so we are technically no longer in a King's Indian defense, right? And if they can't really play d4 straight out of the gate now because we clamped down on that. So we've kind of tricked them into a different kind of setup, and that's what we're going for. And what we're going to do is the King's Indian defense player here will play d6, and what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of put our pieces where they kind of normally go anyway. We're going to put our bishop out to its normal square, get castled safely like we tend to do in our repertoire, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to protect that center, support that center, but also notice what that does is it blunts their beloved Fianchetto bishop here, right? So this is kind of the setup that we're going to go for. And the thing to know is that when they play e5, we're not in a rush to capture that. What I propose is we play rook to e1, right? So we do protect that, we put protection on that, but we also create a square for this knight that is obstructing this bishop to develop to and make its way over to the king side, right? That way, if they ever capture us, we can take back with the pawn, have our kind of bigger center if we want. And what we do is this will be the most common position that we get, and just get experience playing games with this. Review the games when you're done with the computer. We'll undoubtedly have videos on this because as I'm playing, I'm going to be running across this a lot. And so either my own games or games I find like a model game of a stronger player playing from this position. That's kind of the main thing that we're going to get. Now, if we back up just a little bit, what we may find is that when we play this knight b to d2, if the player is a Grunfeld player, or if they're a kind of a stronger player that's a King's Indian player that realizes that we're trying to trick them out of not being able to technically play a true King's Indian defense because we're getting this e4 in, they may play d5 in this position right here, beat us to the punch, and they'll say like, okay, in this position here, instead of fianchettoing, they'll play d5, right? So Either we'll get a stronger player that's a King's Indian player, but they're still going to be playing a Grunfeld instead of a King's Indian, which is good, or it's a Grunfeld player. And then what we're going to do, my high school buddy showed me this a long time ago. He plays b4 in these kind of positions. And the whole idea is when we see g6 combined with d5, they're in this Grunfeld setup, and they eventually would like to be able to play c5 and bust the position open and get an active position. The players that play the Grunfeld like activity and a dynamic position. And what we're going to do is we're going to play b4 and kind of clamp down on this c5 break. And then what we're going to do is, notice we have this already supporting a c4 push. We're going to start pushing our pawns on the queen side and expand on the queen side and get experience playing these kind of positions. So you can see we're just going to expand, right? Possibly this. I mean, we'll see what they do. But get experience playing these kind of positions. It's not going to be that common that you're going to get this, so don't spend a ton of time. When you play b4, you're probably going to take them out of their preparation. So if these setups aren't to your taste, I think they fit very nicely with our repertoire, because for the most part against the King's Indian, we're going to be setting up with our pieces kind of on familiar squares where we kind of buttress the center, get our bishop out here, and we kind of have a nice position. Another way to play this, and there'll be a link to a video up above my head and in the video description. I made a video on this before. Another way to play this is you can kind of set up with your bishop on e2 instead of d3. The argument being is that what we're going to do is we're going to set up this bishop on b3 and go into a Zuckertort, a Colle Zuckertort setup, kind of, where we try to neutralize that bishop and play it this way, and we'll get our pawn out to c4. And kind of the gist of it is your King's Indian player knows that they want to play for this e5 break, and so they'll put their knight on d7. We play out here, and then what'll happen a lot of times is they'll kind of just putz about, and then they'll prematurely make this break. And then what we do is we grab it, and they're not really paying attention to the fact that we can just kind of grab this thing. The point being that if they do knight takes knight, we can take here, and voila. Look at, we have an e-pawn and they don't. I won't go through all the lines because I have a video covering this, but if you kind of like the opportunity to maybe grab a pawn out of the opening and try to just hold on to it and kind of grind them down, at the lower levels, especially at club play, like players like us, this will happen a ton. I had this happen a ton. So I may mix in playing this way sometimes and this way the other times. I'll play the way presented in this repertoire and kind of mix them back and forth, but primarily the way I played in this repertoire. But just be aware, I do have a video on this. If you find it interesting, it's a really good viable option, right? So that's the cool thing about the Colle is that, okay, that setup that we just looked at where we play b3 and bishop to b2, that is another way of playing Colle in the main lines where they play d5. That's a different kind of Colle, and that's something you can add on to this traditional Colle repertoire. You can eventually add on a Zuckertort, mix it up depending on your mood. This tends to be a little bit more dynamic and attacking. The one we play is solid and very thematic. Both were great at club level. So, and then there's other ways to expand the repertoire as well. And that's why I think, like, why not just learn a good repertoire like this really well, one that's easy to remember, get a lot of experience in it, then add on to it, expand it if you want, or just keep playing it and win games. Winning never gets boring. So, we covered all kind of the main setups. At some point, I'll put like one about the Dutch defense and maybe the England Gambit, maybe one of the Friday videos. I'll have that covered. My thought is like I want to have a new Colle video come out every Friday for some period of time going forward. I'm playing this repertoire to try to meet my goals in chess this year, so it fits in with me as well. So I'm going to be playing it. Some of the videos will do games that I play, stuff that I learned from playing it, maybe tactics that come up, maybe end games that come up, maybe some master games, maybe games where Colle himself. This isn't actually named after a dog, it's named after Edgar Colle. I think he was a Belgian grandmaster, from way back when. So we should probably give him some props and go through some of his games. Could learn a lot from doing that anyway, seeing how it developed over time, and see some alternate setups for black that we don't commonly see, but maybe at stronger levels are common. So yeah, I'm really excited about the Colle. We'll have a video coming out every Friday for a while, and I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll do well with it if you take some time. It's just so much quicker to learn and very thematic. So hopefully we'll see you on some Friday videos, and hope you have good luck playing the Colle. Take care.